I imagine that no matter what part of his career he's at, when Tony Ferguson's name comes across the desk, it's a pretty exciting one to sign.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a fight that it obviously fell through 8 years ago. It was supposed to be my first main event in Sioux Falls. But once I went up to 170, I just kind of forgot about it. I didn't think we'd ever cross paths again. So when the name was presented to me, I was super excited. It's like a chapter I can close in my career. And to have it here in Abu Dhabi, I'm genuinely excited to fight here. My last win was here. I love the culture out here, so it's like a double bonus to get to fight Tony Ferguson in Abu Dhabi.
Nice. There's no secret about Tony's career right now, and he's on skid. But you, as a professional and as a fighter, you have to prepare for the guy that we used to watch cutting people up with elbows and everything like that. And especially if this is meant to be his last hurrah, right? So are you going in here expecting the most dangerous Tony that you could possibly face?
I would be a fool to train for the Tony Ferguson that's on the skid. I would be a fool to overlook I would be a fool to overlook him given the current situation with his career. I'm training for the guy that I was supposed to fight 8 years ago. I'm training for the guy that I was supposed to fight amidst this crazy win streak that he was on. Just because he's 0-7 in his last 7 fights doesn't take away his offense. It doesn't take away his skills. It doesn't take away his Darce choke. It doesn't take away all the things that he does very well. And I look at some of those fights and I kind of put an asterisk next to him I commend him for the David Goggins Hell Week. That's quite a feat. But I don't think that that's a great thing to do in a fight camp. I think that compromised him. I'm not saying he would have won that fight, but I'm saying I kind of put an asterisk next to it. Like, how would he have done if he didn't go through such a strenuous week, that probably led to him tearing the ligament in his knee. You look at the Nate Diaz fight, that was already a short notice camp to fight Li Jingliang, and then they switch opponents. He fights Nate, 5 rounds. There's just weird little things amidst that skid that, I kind of put an asterisk next to those losses. So I'm training for the dangerous Tony Ferguson, the one that we all knew so well, the one that we all love. I mean, I get all these messages like, please just throw the fight with Tony Ferguson. I'm like, why the hell would you? What a terrible thing to message me, I'm training for a dangerous Tony Ferguson. And if this is really his last fight, I imagine he's going to pull out all the stops. So I hope I get the best version of him. I want the version of him that I was supposed to fight 8 years ago.
Out of all the fighters that I talk to, you're one of the biggest fans of this sport that I'm aware of. So people can say what they want about Tony and where he's at in his career, but eventually, when it's all said and done, you have the chance here to look back, not only have Tony on your record, but to be his last fight of the UFC. I'm sure that does something for you, and there's an emotional connection to Tony. We all love Tony. Do you look at that and go, man, what an opportunity I have here to sort of say goodbye to a legend?
Absolutely. Especially because it's like unfinished business, but in a very, there's no bad blood between us. That doesn't mean Tony's necessarily the type of fighter that wants to walk up and dap you up during fight week.
He'll find that.
But him and I definitely have a mutual respect for each other. So I think that I'm his best last dance partner. And I mean, let's just look at the numbers. I'm 36. I'm 0-3 in my last 3 fights. Like, it's a fight that makes sense. Like, it's not, Paddy Pimblett, who's rolling hot right now. It's not Beneil Dariush. It's not Charles Oliveira. It's a fight that makes sense. So I feel like I'm the perfect dance partner for him. Him back at his original weight class that he won the Ultimate Fighter at. Tough champ versus tough champ. A fight that never happened. I'm the guy.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I'm going to send him off riding off in the sunset on a win. I've got to go out there and beat the guy, and I plan to finish him. So make no mistake, I am the perfect dance partner, but that doesn't mean it's going to go well for him.
For you then, what exactly does a win here do for you? Does it give you a clarification on where you're at with your career? Does it give you a big name to propel yourself forward, back into the win column, back up the rankings? What exactly does a win over Tony do for you?
The latter of the two. Get back in the rankings, make another run at it. Last year was hard, man. Just mentally, I fell apart in that Kevin Holland fight. I feel like I just really went out there and beat myself. I feel like, I run that fight back 10 times. I feel like I win half of them, but I just beat myself. And there's a lot of things that happened after the fight that kind of developed some mental struggles. But, we wrote the ship. I righted the ship, or however you want to word that, So things are good. My head's in the right place. And I know what I want to do with this next chapter of my career, and that's get back in the rankings. So it all starts with Tony Ferguson, but I got to go out there and I got to beat him in devastating fashion. I can't go out there and sneak by. I'm not going to go out there and have a 15-minute fight. I'm going to go out there, put a pace on him, and I'm going to put him away. So I got to send a message to these guys to let them know I'm still relevant, and it all starts with Tony Ferguson. I'm not looking past him. I'm not, that's just the task at hand. I'm just focusing on him. I think my biggest problem is sometimes I was just so, especially amidst, this 0-3 skid, I was just so focused on the title. Like, it was like, it came up short to Luque, and that was a fight that, from what I heard, if I would have beat Luque, I would have been fighting Usman next. And then, okay, Sean Brady, I beat Sean Brady. I'm right back in the top 5, right back in the mix for the title. And then Kevin Holland fight, okay, yeah, I got to beat him to hold my spot in the rankings to keep I'm just, it's all about the title. And now it's like, for now, fuck the title. Just focus on myself. I need to focus on myself. I'm not focusing on what's most important, my mental health, where I'm at in my career. So right now, it's just like, forget about the title. Let's focus on Tony Ferguson and see what happens thereafter. But I feel like if I go out there and do what I believe I can do in what I'm capable of, which is go out there and finish him, I believe that people are going to remember that I'm still very relevant, and I'm going to get that number next to my name again.
It's kind of funny, right? But, some guys touch on it, not everyone does. It's crazy that you can be so far into your career and still have these sort of random patches of mental struggles and random patches of self-doubt and everything like that. You sort of assume, well, I've been doing this so long, I know how that goes. But to have those patches of self-doubt, to be able to come through them, do you enjoy is not the right word, but do you get something out of that as a martial artist, being like, man, like, you can still struggle, you can still stand up, you can still continue?
Definitely. I mean, as you're going through it, not really, it's not a very enjoyable experience, losing to Kevin Holland by Darce choke was it just did not feel real. I was like, there's no fucking way in hell I've lost 3 fights by Darce choke, especially 2 of the 3 losses amidst this 3-fight skid are Darce chokes. Like, what the fuck is happening? I'm living in a simulation. This is not real. And things that happened thereafter, we had to put my dog down less than a week after the fight. Things just kind of snowballed into that. But to go through those struggles and to be where I'm at now and to be in the headspace I'm in, just how I feel now compared to how I felt last fight week is such a night and day difference. And it's important, man. I can't emphasize enough. Mental health is especially for a guy, it's such a, you want to protect your masculinity and be a tough guy, but it's fuck, man, this sport can break you to your knees mentally. So I'm very, very blessed and happy to be where I'm at mentally this fight week. I'm very happy. I'm excited to compete. I haven't felt this excitement to compete in a long time. It has nothing to do. I think a lot of it has to do with getting the chance to fight Tony, just to kind of close that chapter in my career. But it also has to do with just working on getting my headspace right. And I got to give a big shout out to my Uncle Joe, Dr. Joe Corella. We've been working extensively together, and he's been helping me a lot.
Nice, man. You mentioned the Darce. If Tony starts going for one, you just go like, no.
Well, I mean, every training session for the last 9 weeks has ended with Darce defense. So, if I lose by Darce choke, I'm gonna fuck that.
Mike over here.
Yeah.
Tony said he went back to sparring for the first time in 7 years. Wanted to get your thoughts on that and just sparring in general, because a lot of fighters have had split opinions on whether they should or not.
First time sparring in 7 years. So when did he fight Beneil Dariush? Didn't he say he slammed his training partner and broke his rib in sparring? I believe that fight was 2021 or 2022. Okay. Yeah. I think, 120 rounds of sparring. You divide that by 3, you sparred 40 days in an 8-week camp. I think that's pretty normal. That's not extraordinary. That's not something crazy. That's run-of-the-mill training. Great. I hope he did spar. He should. He's going to need to. He's got a really tough fight on his hands. 120 rounds of live training is kind of base level, I think. But he did not take 7 years off from sparring. He's blowing smoke. So... yeah, I love how ESPN made a nice little Instagram post about it like it's some fucking big deal. Like, holy shit, Tony Ferguson is doing 120 rounds of sparring. It's like, all right, well, I'm sure every fighter on the card's probably like, wow, that's fucking great. Like, we all do the same thing. Like, and I think he included grappling and wrestling in there. So how many days did you grapple? How many days did you wrestle? Like, every time I go to jiu-jitsu, it's 5 to 10 rounds of live training. If I go to wrestling practice, it's 5 to 10 rounds of live grappling. If I spar, it's 3 to 5 rounds. You add it up. I could put up a good, little headline. Hey, I did 250 rounds of live training this camp. Let's see if ESPN makes a post about that. Who gives a shit? I hope you sparred 120 rounds. You're going to need it.
And he also kind of...
What's up, my brother? Sorry.
That's a first. Yeah, he was also talking about, like, if you want to wrestle, I'm right here. Do your eyes light up when you hear him say that kind of stuff? Do you believe him, or do you feel like this might play out on the feet?
I think it's going to be a nice display of mixed martial arts. All fights start standing. I think that he's expecting me to force some wrestling sequences. I would love for him to shoot on me. I mean, the only guy I've ever really had shoot on my legs is Sean Brady, and that's not the easiest guy to have inside the distance, inside on your legs. I would love if he shot on me. I mean, I've never really got to display my takedown defense and my defensive, just my wrestling defense as a whole. But I think he's expecting some bad shots. I think he's expecting some opportunities to snatch my neck. He's not going to get them. But I anticipate a full display of mixed martial arts, and I anticipate getting this fight done in a couple rounds. And
one last one from me. What were your thoughts on Belal's win over Leon?
It was great. I mean, it's something that I was a little bit surprised. I thought it'd be a 50-50 fight. You know, you go back and look at the first fight. Granted, Belal's coming in on short notice. Leon had a full camp for Khamzat Chimaev, which if you're fighting Khamzat Chimaev, you better put in a good camp. That's a tough fight. But then you can't put too much stock into the first fight, and I kept having to remind myself that. And you look at Belal's strength of schedule. I mean, compared to Leon's, it's a night and day difference. I mean, with all due respect to Leon, he's snuck by Nate Diaz. You know, Belal Muhammad beat Gilbert Burns on, 2 weeks' notice, less than 2 weeks' notice, something of that sort. Plus, he mixed in all the ranked wins over Luke Gay and Wonderboy, and like his strength of schedule is so much better. So that, looking at that, reminded myself that this fight's a lot closer than the odds makers may have it. But good for him. What a masterclass! I mean, just went out there and put a pace on him. I love that little sound bite that came out in Leon's corner. Is like, "You want me to stop this fight?" I was like, "Oh man, things were falling apart for sure." So good for Belal. It shakes the division up, and I think it's better to have Belal as a champion. I think that you can get some more activity out of him. He's a guy that's very, come on, come all. He's willing to fight anybody and everybody at any given time, Ramadan or not. I mean, the dude's game. So I think it's good for the division. So congrats to him.
Thank you.
Yep. What's up?
Hey, Mike. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Is there added pressure on you for fighting in Abu Dhabi? You're 0-3. Last win was in Abu Dhabi. You proposed to your wife in the Emirates. I know personally that your mom is being here might add a pressure on you. Do you feel that pressure on you?
No, I don't feel pressure. Fighting here is great for one. I love being here in the Emirates. I love being in Abu Dhabi. I love Dubai. It's a very special place for me. I won my first main event, my second try at Etihad Arena. I proposed to my wife in Dubai. A lot of very, very special moments, not only in my career, but in my life. But when you talk about the pressure of, these last 3 fights and where I'm at in my career being 36, I think that what's helped me the most over the course of the last year is really figuring out what's more important. Like, whether I win or lose, I'm going to go back to the same people that are going to love me the same regardless. My wife, my family, my friends, my team. Like, obviously they want me to win, but they don't give a shit. They're going to love me the same. And I think once I figured that out, the pressure's just gone. It doesn't matter. I could go out and get Darce choked by Tony Ferguson in a handful of days, and they're all going to love me the same. And that's what's most important to me is just the people that love me and the people I'm surrounded by. They don't really care if I win or lose. They just love me for me. So winning and losing has become much more, insignificant in my life. I don't care about it as much as I used to. Obviously, that's the goal. That's what I intend to go out and do. But like, I don't feel that pressure of like of win or die. That's essentially how it feels, and that's how I felt going into the Kevin Holland fight. It's win or die. Like so you put that type of pressure on yourself. How are you supposed to perform like that? So now it's just I don't feel that type of pressure because the people that matter, they're going to love me the same no matter what. And I think that's essentially. That set me free, and being free is very important. I think that's where you perform at your best.
You're one of the few fighters that can see their career after they retire. Not that you're thinking of it, but you're one of the most articulate fighters that we have. You already have your spot in the media. You're well-liked, good-looking guy.
Hey.
Do you think that also the stars are lined up for you to turn it around? That you have Tony Ferguson on his last fight, so your name will be there in history, no matter what happens. You want him to shoot for you. This is your game. This is your place. Do you think the stars are lined up for you to turn it around?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the other thing too is I went back to training at home. I think I love Las Vegas. I love it's the mecca of combat sports. The UFC PIs out there. There's amazing MMA gyms. There's a plethora of bodies. I love Las Vegas. I have a second home out there. I spend a lot of time out there. But I think it's important for me to just go back home and do training camp. And everything I've done in my career has been out of Spokane, Washington, a little small city on the east side of the state, So I think I think it keeps my head in a better place, kind of circling back to what I said about being around the people that love you. I think it's important for me to be around those people all the time instead of pulling up shop, being away from my wife, being away from my mom and things like that. I think it's so cliche to say that this sport is 99% mental, but it totally is. It's like, it really is. If your head's in the right place, you're going to perform so much better. And my head is in a much better place when I train at home. And if I got to, break away from Spokane for a few days and go train and get some looks, I go out and do that. But I think the stars are definitely aligning for me to make another good run. And outside of that, everything with the broadcasting career, man, it's such a blessing. I can tell you how I got here as a fighter, but when I look back and I don't even know how the hell I got into broadcasting. I think I just bitched about it enough and got around the right people enough and got in their ear enough to get my opportunity. But sometimes I got to pinch myself because sometimes it doesn't feel real. And it's, and that's the other thing too. You want to talk about taking pressure off of this, taking pressure off your shoulders on the back end of your career. I already have a plan, a lot of guys are like, shit, what am I going to do? We're coming to the end. I'm in my mid to late 30s. What the fuck am I going to do? It's like me. I'm like, I got a plan, and I got to remind myself of that. And the best part about it is I'm never going to have to work a 9 to 5. My life is going to revolve around this sport until the day I croak. Once I'm done being a fighter, I'm a broadcaster. Once I get that promotion from analyst to commentator, great. I'm so blessed, and to see these blessings amidst the worst stage of my career shows I'm in a really good headspace.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Mike, what's up, brother?
What's up, brother?
What do you think is more prominent in MMA right now? The 35 and over curse or the Michael Chiesa curse?
The fucking Michael Chiesa curse. 100%. And the funny thing is I randomly discovered that at the desk when I was, I think it was when Luke was fighting Belal. I was just kind of looking through the records and it just kind of clicked in my head. I'm like, man, every guy that's ever beat me has lost their next fight. The Chiesa curse is a lot more prominent than the 35 and older curse because Belal went out and broke it. So, and I have a feeling that, I think a few other guys could do the same. So, yeah, the Chiesa curse. Yeah, for sure. It lives on.
Michael here. It's been almost a year since we saw you in the cage. How did you use this time?
Obviously, always in the gym. That's just kind of like run-of-the-mill stuff as a fighter. You're always in the gym in your time away, or you should be at least, getting your sparring in, and really just kind of working on my mental game, just making sure getting my head right, just focusing on things in my life outside of fighting that needed to be addressed and things of that sort. But I'm excited to go next door and go recapture the magic that I did against Neil Magny January 20th. 2022, I think it was. Yeah, looking forward to righting the ship here at home in Abu Dhabi.
And through your career, you faced one of the toughest guys in UFC. What it means for a fighter to face the best in the business?
That's the goal, man. I mean, when I got in the sport and really started to realize I could become one of the best in the world, that's what I anticipate. I've always wanted the toughest fights. I've never been a guy to nitpick and ask for guys, turn them down. I've always asked for the toughest fights. I asked for Tony Ferguson after I fought Beneil Dariush when he was amidst this crazy run. You want the tough fights. You want to challenge yourself. And I've always said, win big or lose big. I mean, I'd rather do that than fight somebody that nobody knows, that's, that there's no reward to it. So roll the dice, roll the dice, win big, lose big. So I like to fight the tougher guys. I like the challenges that they present.
And one is for me. Tony said that he will use his wrestling against you. So, on the ground, what kind of advantages you see against Tony Ferguson?
If he's going to use his wrestling, I'm going to say thank you ahead of time. So I'll just kind of leave it at that. If he wants to wrestle me, that's going to be the beginning of his demise. Like I said, the only fighter to ever really try to wrestle me is Sean Brady, and that guy's mutant strong. He is not Sean Brady. So if he wants to offensively wrestle me, that's going to make my job a lot easier. I don't think he'll do that. I think that I'll be the one initiating those sequences. So we'll see what happens. But if he does get in on these legs, awesome. I'm excited. That'll be great. Shoot your shot, bud. Thanks, you guys. It's good to be back. Oh, we got one more.
Michael, hello.
Yep. Hey.
Many say that this fight is the last chance for Tony to stay in the UFC. Do you feel somewhat strange that you are the fighter that matchmakers gave Tony as his last chance, as someone who Tony can beat at this stage of his career?
Maybe. I don't know if that's their mentality. I think that more than anything, it's just a fight that makes sense. He wanted to go back up to 170, and if you just look at the choices of guys, you're not going to give him, a Renat Fakhretdinov or someone like that. Like that would be if that's his last fight. That's fucked up, for lack of better words. This is just a fight that makes sense. This was a fight that was supposed to happen 8 years ago. He's an Ultimate Fighter champion. I'm an Ultimate Fighter champion. I'm on a skid. He's on a skid. It's just a fight that I think the numbers just match up. He's 40, I'm 36. I mean, it's the perfect matchup. It's the fight that makes sense. So I don't think it's them trying to give him a gimme, because I'm far from that. But it's just a fight that if you look at the numbers, if you look at the metrics, I think it's a fight that makes sense. But by all means, he's not riding off on the sunset on a win. He's going to get his last fight, but he's not getting his hand raised. I mean, it's simple as that. Yeah. Yep. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the show.